So moving on to inspiration now. Who or what inspires you the most?
I think it would have to be my mum and dad. I'm keeping it close to home today.
Yeah.
My dad um, was born in a very small village in what at that time was India. This was pre-partition. And he grew up during pretty much the Civil War. And he his family, when partition happened, had to move from India to Pakistan because they were Muslims. And I don't think the journey was very long, although I'm not sure. He very rarely spoke about it when I was a child. Um, but I know that the family moved to Pakistan and set up very close to the border. And my dad's mum was a teacher, my grandmother, and my grandfather, my dad's dad, couldn't read or write, and his job was to work on the train station selling herbs to people on the trains, which was really unusual back in the day because a woman to be breadwinner and the only person to have a job and to be literate was massive. Anyway, so my dad grew up in Pakistan after he moved from India, and he wanted to come to England because there were very few job opportunities in that area at that time after the Civil War and partition. It was really like a depressed economy at that time. So my dad wanted to come to England, but my dad had no birth certificate because his birth was never recorded. And but my dad did have a brother who works at the embassy in London. So we contacted his brother, and his brother helped him to get a passport, get everything he needed. And when my dad turned up at the passport office, they asked him what's his date of birth, and my dad went 2nd of October 1927. He just completely made it up. Right, okay, log that on. And that's the date that's on his gravestone now, even though we all know it's not true. Very unlikely to be true. Anyway, so my dad had very little money, so he approached one of the captains of a ship that was travelling from Lahore to Glasgow and said, I want you to come on the ship, but I've got no money. And I guess the guy said, fine, you can work the engines, and that'll be your fare. And my dad was really interested in machinery. He was engineering. He was an engineering guy. He was a draftsman. Absolutely beautiful talent for drawing. It's amazing. Anyway, so Dad came over to Glasgow in 1956, and yeah, Glasgow Shipyards, 1956. Fair amount of racism going on, I should think. So he had to put up with all that, and he slept in a bed that during the day was slept in by people who worked the night shift. So it was bed sharing, which was pretty gross. But Dad did it. Anyway, in 1961, I think it was, he flew back to Pakistan and asked for my mum to marry him. Now, my mum had never met him, and my dad asked my mum and dad's, sorry, my mum's parents for permission. Yeah, agreed. Excuse me. And then, 1962, my mum flew over to England. She was in her 20s. She'd never been to England before. She left her family, friends, her language, her culture, flew 5,000 miles to a man she was already married to, she'd never met. And she got here and she met my dad for the first time. My dad had actually married her over post.
Wow.
So he came back to England and London, and got the marriage certificate, signed it, posted it to my mum. My mum got it, signed it. So legally they were married.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, that was the thing way back when.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do now,
No.
but back then. And Mum had to basically start living a life here, and like she was a qualified teacher. She was a teacher of English literature and Persian literature. But my dad didn't want her to work. He wanted kids, so Mum gave up that dream of being a teacher and settled into life in England, and then moved from London to Manchester, where my oldest brother was born. I'm just trying to work out the dates. And then they moved to Bakewell, to Weir. And Mum says, she always said, it was December 1962 or 3, must have been 63. And they moved into the house in Weir. It was a farm, which my dad bought, I think, for something like £1,000 for a farm, a barn, and something like 17 acres of land. And set up house there, but Mum couldn't explore the village because the snow was that bad. She couldn't get out for 6 weeks. Just up the road from us we have some bungalows, and Mum always said she didn't know those bungalows were there for the first 6 weeks she lived in Weir because the snow was so bad.
Wow.
And yeah, and they created a family, 4 children. And then in 1960, I'm wrong with the dates, 68 I think it was, my sister was killed in a car accident. She ran out onto the road in front of the house and was hit by a car. She was 3, so they had to get through that. And then by that time they had my 2 brothers. Decided they didn't want any more children until 9 years later. Surprise! So yeah, I think their stories, their sort of put up with it attitude to get through and to create a better life for themselves and their kids is just something that I draw on every day. How did you do that? I had no idea at all.
That is, yeah, that does bring it back to bravery, doesn't it? To just basically give up everything you know and start afresh. Do you know why your dad picked Weir in particular? I'm always curious. I never asked my dad when he was here why we ended up in Rosendale and what drew him there. Do you know why he ended up there?
My dad was, how do I put this? He had lots of ideas and he wasn't afraid to follow them through. So when he arrived in England, I believe he worked on the Glasgow Shipyards as an engineer. Glasgow Technical College, and I found a certificate from Glasgow Technical College, which doesn't exist anymore. His certificate in draftsmanship, technical drawing. And then he decided he was to work in Manchester. Why? I don't know. He didn't like Glasgow. I'm not surprised. He didn't like London either. He moved to Manchester. But then he decided to change his mind and he wanted to become a farmer.
Right.
Because
why not?
Why wouldn't he? And so he was looking for a farm and he just picked one. I had no idea why he picked Weir, but that was what he chose. And then later, he didn't want to do technical drawing anymore and didn't want to be a farmer anymore. He wanted to be a petrol station owner. So he set up a petrol station.
My dad did that too.
Farm. Yeah.
He bought a random petrol
That's
station
amazing.
that never made any money. And my mum always says, why on earth he got that petrol station? I'll never know.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
I never knew that like that. Wow. Yeah. And then he changed his mind, didn't want to be a petrol station anymore. He wanted to be a butcher, a halal butcher. So that was what he did. He became a halal butcher. and he ran his own business doing that, and then he retired. So yeah, just random. It should be random.
So I suppose a lesson you could say you'd learnt from him was it's never a problem to reinvent yourself and try something completely different.
Yeah, just be adaptable, definitely. He was very much like that.
Yeah. I think we've always said your dad and my dad were very similar in that respect, quite different thinkers in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I saw a rainbow on the way here. I took a picture of it for you because I thought something was going on up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Now, so how do you think that your story can inspire other people? Because I know obviously you do a lot with deaf awareness now in the community. Is that what you want your main sort of legacy to be, do you think?
Oh, well, I'd like my children to know where they came from and their background. And I'd like to leave the world a better place than I found it. But that's probably about all, really. Just try and have some fun along the way.
Yeah. That's not a bad legacy, is it, really?
Yeah.
Have your children learnt sign language?
Yeah. Yeah, they're teenagers. They're weird.
I feel
Robin
you.
understands a lot more than she lets on. And we've had situations where Mark and I are having quite a private conversation, and they should turn around and say, "You can't say that, Dad." And how do you know?
Oh, wow.
And I remember last year we went to Panto, which was interpreted, and there were quite a few deaf people there, and Robin was sat watching these two deaf people have this conversation in their language and voicing over what was going on. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got to be really careful now. Alex is better as well than lets on. He won't sign, but if I really need him to, he will produce the sign, and I'll think, how do you know that? I've tried to encourage them both to actually learn and maybe get qualifications in it, but neither of them are interested. They just see it as it's just life. You know, they don't see it as anything unusual. Mum's deaf, so, and that's fine by me.
Yeah.
That's fine by me. Yeah.
And do you see a sea change happening in society of deaf awareness improving and companies making more efforts to make things more accessible?
Yeah, very slowly. Sometimes it's like one step forward, two steps back. Still a lot of work to be done. But I think there's a couple of things recently which have helped or will help. One of them is the BSL Act, which was passed last year, April, which might amaze a lot of people listening to this, because it was the first time we actually have an act that protects the rights of BSL users. We now have a statutory right to our language, which we didn't before. So yeah, that's made a difference, because now people are saying, oh, we've got to sort out an interpreter. We have to make this information accessible in BSL. We have to get things translated, which is good for me. So yeah.
Because I read on your website that 1 in 6 people in the country are hard of hearing or have hearing problems. So it's not a small issue, is it? It's something that affects everybody.
No.
And probably as you get older starts to affect a lot more people.
That's right. Yeah. The current statistic now is 1 in 5.
Right.
And it's expected by the year 2050 to become 1 in 4.
Right.
That actually are affected by deafness, whether it's mild or profound, to have some degree of hearing loss. And partly it's due to we're an ageing population, and as we get older, we get more death. And also, I think because of noise exposure, because you see a lot of kids with the AirPods and the loud music, and it's really not a good situation. There needs to be more awareness for that, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because you've got people going to loud clubs with very loud music, and then just constantly, I know my kids have always got their earpods in, and as you say, that can't be good, and there's probably a ticking time bomb for that down the line.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember where the research was from, but there was some research conducted into the effects of listening to music with the AirPods above a certain threshold of loudness will cause damage to the ears, because we're just not designed for that. So yeah, it's a problem, and I think it will become worse in the future.
And it's definitely something. I remember being at the bus station in Manchester, and there was a deaf couple trying to get some information from somebody, and they just couldn't communicate, and I felt bad. I was like, I should have learnt some sign language so that at least I could step in. So I think hopefully more and more people will realise it as an issue, and perhaps just, even if they get the basics, that will be able to help somebody if they came across a deaf person.
Yeah, there's a pilot at the moment looking into creating a GCSE in British Sign Language, and just this morning I shared a post from a school, I think it's in Sussex, which has a primary school which has scrapped teaching French to the children and is teaching them their instead. And there's a lot of schools that I know of that I've been directly involved with, either through the children or training the staff, where they want to teach BSL as a subject. And I work 2 days a week in a high school in Bury, teaching sign language to year 7s, and it's a skill that I hope that will stay with them for life, even if all they remember is, hello, my name is, are you alright, can I help you? And then after that they go, I don't know any more sign language. That's fine, you've got something, you've got to start. That's the important thing.
Well, I think you're more likely to come across a deaf person than a French person, aren't you? Well, from what we've just discussed in terms of statistics. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
Great.